Welcome back to Real Gold. I'm Darion Morris. My partner Rick is on the other side, and today we were going to talk about Claude versus ChatGPT. I think most people, ChatGPT is synonymous with AI, at least from my understanding. Most everybody that I talk to, when they say they use AI for this and that, they're really saying I use ChatGPT. But over the last few months, ChatGPT's popularity has definitely declined. Claude's has risen, especially with its co-work and coding features. Rick, how do you feel, man? Do you still use ChatGPT a lot, or are you starting to shift like it seems like a lot of people are doing?
So, to be quite honest, I feel like I'm doubling down. I don't know that my usage on ChatGPT has lessened. I think I've just spent even more time additionally with other tools. Um, Being that ChatGPT was kind of like the first mover in the industry, I have a soft spot for it for various tasks, and a lot of people, especially in the AI world, I know what you're saying. They do put it down right now, and it got a lot of flack for various different reasons, and everyone is saying, it's not. I don't know. People rate it like a 6 out of 10 for usability, but for a lot of these agentic tasks, and I think it's uh, I think it's foolish to just write it off so quickly.
I agree with you. I also still use ChatGPT a good amount. I will say for me, where the shift started happening, and there's some like political reasons and some business reasons and things like that, and we can get deeper into that. But for me, the reason I started shifting to using Claude so much more, as well as even Gemini, I use Gemini more, and Manus, which we're not even going to get into today, but Manus is, in my opinion, the best AI tool out there. But for me, ChatGPT, it just became too much of a yes man, and it doesn't follow instructions as well anymore. It it wants to just every question I ask it, or every idea, or every thing I need it to help me with, it always tries to spin it in a way that's going to be pleasing to me, and that's not always the case that I want or need.
Yeah, you do. You really have to get into your prompting and make sure that you're asking it to check itself. And hey, give me pushback. I want pushback on these questions I'm asking, and you do have to really say that. I also think, though, in the conversation, it's important to separate a few things with both Claude and ChatGPT. And like, you have the base application of ChatGPT, the thing that everyone's most familiar with, but then you also have like the API, which is what people are using to access for making applications, right? And they also have like their real time, which is what we use in our voice agents. So it's part of our STT, our and TTS pipelines. So, Claude's the same way. You have Claude Code, right? And then you also have Claude's API. So those are just three very different ways that people can access these tools. So it's important to separate them. Um, when when I'm doing a coding task, for example, I personally use the most just because it's the most cost effective for me. I use inside of GitHub. They have it's Copilot Plus. Well, it's not just a lot of people trash Copilot. It's not just Copilot. When you're using it as a subscription inside of GitHub, you actually get access to all of the tools that are available. So I can go in and switch between um, Claude, Opus 4.7, 4.8, or I can switch between Claude Sonnet, or I can choose any of the available ChatGPT models. So you're not just stuck with one tool. And you would be surprised that like the newer ChatGPT models in their codecs, they do some pretty heavy lifting, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point. So what you said earlier about prompting, I think also for a lot of chat GPT only users or people that have recently not really loved chat GPT, I think a lot of that is because they don't know how to correctly prompt. one of the things I like about Claude is way more, you can describe the final outcome you want more so where with ChatGPT, you need to give it really good prompts and really good instructions. Claude does a better job of just understanding desired outcome and working itself to that desired outcome. Um, I will say though, one thing I do love about ChatGPT over Claude is it natively browses websites when you ask it to. With Claude, you have to go into Cowork, you have to connect it to Chrome, and then you have to go in and do all these different like connections and whatever. And even then, sometimes I'll still have issues with it browsing a website, and I'll get an error message or it'll explain why I can't do it. Whereas ChatGPT, you can just drop links in, and it does a great job of scraping websites automatically. Um, that's one of the that I would say for me, that's one of the main things too that I like ChatGPT for. Right now, let me ask you this, Rick, and you're just like daily workflows. What task are you typically going straight to ChatGPT for, and which ones are you going straight to Claude for?
So Claude, I do honestly, most of my coding is done through Claude. What I like about ChatGPT is with my simple $20 subscription, you can hook up to ChatGPT's codex and it's still like get a lot done for very little amount of money. So I will use it for some heavier tasks, but a lot of the planning and stuff I do offload to Claude. There's some models that were released in Claude that got pulled back due to some governmental restrictions recently, which was, I mean, good and bad, right? I'm glad somebody's keeping an eye on this. There's a lot of there's a lot of security risks, I think, in the near future that people should be aware of, and so it's good that they're monitoring this stuff. And yes, they got pulled back, but like they had Fable 5. I mean, the reports were crazy. People were, as far as design work went, because that's kind of the holy grail right now. Like this stuff is not great at design. So it's really good at code and solving like any kind of mathematical problems you might have. If you need a functional tool, this stuff is it can solve anything. So, but again, back to answer your question, I am using Claude for like more software development stuff. But if I needed to do something like, say, I don't know, I wanted to see what my cabinets look like in a different color. With ChatGPT, it's as simple as taking a photo and saying, I want make my cabinets, dark walnut. And you can see that in a split second. I absolutely love features like that. I did the same thing with my back patio. I'm trying to figure out like, hey, what should I put on my back patio right now? Because a million different options for pavers or stamped concrete, and it could just spit out an image exactly as you requested. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with you. I think image generation with ChatGPT is still top notch. Their newest image generator is great. I use it for that as well. Also, when it comes to just spitballing ideas, ChatGPT I think is still really good for that. And one other thing too that I think is important to bring up is that when you use ChatGPT for things such as grammar checks,
Mm.
spell checks, one line questions like you would typically go to Google for in years past. You know, even brainstorming like social media content and stuff like that, you can still get great results from ChatGPT and not have to use up your Claude or any other more high level tools credits. So ChatGPT is still a great tool for saving you money on simple tasks, if nothing else. Um, the other thing too that I will say when it comes to the two tools, um, I've noticed, so I was doing some research and I've noticed that like 80% of the Fortune 100 companies are actually using Claude, which shows Claude is much better at actually working through like agentic task and agentic workflows and long documents, long like summaries of very in-depth reports and PDFs and files. Claude Cowork can actually take over your computer. It can create files. It can edit files. Whereas with ChatGPT, you have to do all those workflows a little bit more manually, right? So I think they both have their place. Ultimately, if I can only choose one, I would go Claude at this point. But I think there's a lot of bashing of ChatGPT nowadays that I don't think is very accurate, right? I think it still has a great place. And kind of like you, it was how I got started in the AI world. So I'm always going to have like a bit of a soft spot for it, right? Which, you know, you can take that. However, I'm sure a lot of the gurus out there say, your emotions shouldn't be involved. But hey, ChatGPT has been a good friend to me all these years.
Let me ask you, Darion. With all the political stuff going on, with a lot of the AI tools, how do you feel about you know OpenAI's just willingness to jump right into whatever our government says and just be a total? I mean, true to its own tool, it's a yes man to our government, right?
For sure. For sure. So that's a good question. I think what's super interesting is the large percentage of ChatGPT users are definitely more creative, younger, more left-leaning, but yet they were the one that struck a deal with our conservative, right-leaning government. So there is that interesting clash between those two ideologies. Also, and I didn't realize this until just here recently, but with the quit chat gpt movement that was started after chat gpt struck the deal with the Pentagon, or OpenAI struck the deal with the Pentagon, 1.5 million subscribers left chat gpt. That's kind of wild to me. Also, and so for anyone, real quick, for anyone that's not aware, long story short, you can do your own research. This isn't really a political show, but the Pentagon deal was kind of where the downfall of ChatGPT started, at least what I noticed, really, that people were dropping off. And what that was the government wanted to use Anthropic and all of its technical capabilities, including being able to have mass surveillance and even create robots and other technologies that could be used for killing. And Anthropic was like, no way, we're not doing it. And then ChatGPT and OpenAI and Sam Altman, they came right in and they're like, okay, we'll do it. And in addition to that, there's also a lot of ChatGPT models that are being used in the like with the ICE uh, integrations. So using ChatGPT to help screen people for, if they're here legally or not, even when it comes to like applying for jobs and different things like that. So obviously, a lot of the more left-leaning side of our country is going to be against it. I guess for me, I've been kind of waffling back and forth. Like, how much of a role should government really play in this whole artificial intelligence? Like, should businesses be doing what's best for them, or whatever? It's kind of crazy because at some point, if technology and which AI system you use becomes a statement of your political affiliation, then are you potentially missing out on the best technology? Like, it's a weird little thing. I kind of went off the rails, maybe more than your specific question. What are your thoughts around it?
Yeah, I mean, one, it's an industry with very little oversight currently, and I do think in the near future there will be a lot of regulation. It just happens with every industry over time. So I do think people that dove right in are just kind of positioning themselves as, hey, we're going to play nice in the sandbox. So treat us well when you start writing all your policies. That's what it seemed like to me. And I do think Dario of Anthropic, he was right to push back on that. I mean, these tools, if they're doing what they say, I mean, they're pretty powerful. But who knows what's being developed in other countries? We don't have all the information. We're getting this stuff so late in the game and when it's being developed that we'll never truly know what's happening behind the curtain, right? So I tend to be pretty agnostic though with my tools. Like for my purposes as a business owner, I just want to use the tool that is the most efficient, the least expensive, and works the best. That's all I give a crap about, to be honest with you.
Yeah, totally. I'm the same here. I want to use whatever is best for the business that I have and also the businesses that we work with and consult with. You know, you just brought up something about there's going to be a lot of regulations. For anyone who may not be aware, the EU actually does have a law coming out called the EU AI Act, and it goes live this summer of 2026. And basically, it structures tiers of AI acceptability. And so I have the list right here. So you have tier one, which is unacceptable, and is the banned list, and that's AI that manipulates people into harmful decisions, certain forms of untargeted facial recognition, AI that exploits vulnerable people such as children or individuals with disability. The next tier is high risk. So these are allowed but heavily regulated AI systems that can be examples of this are AI used in hiring and recruitment, AI used in education, healthcare, banking, law enforcement, border control. Then the next tier is limited risk. These require little transparency, and it's basically appropriate, non mature AI images and basic chatbot use cases. And then there's totally minimal risk AI, which is going to be not really regulated. And that is like using AI tools that help you with writing, uh, recommendations, and a lot of productivity tools, right? And different things that we're using AI in a lot of ways that a lot of people aren't even familiar with, right? Like when you're on Spotify and it knows what kind of music you like and it's able to build you out a playlist of songs that you've never heard before. That is also AI, right? So, some people, are using it and don't even realize like how integrated it is in their life already. So if the EU is doing that, and to be fair, they're always a little bit more progressive, right, than us here, but you're right, we're 100% going to be very regulated soon. And I think there's pros and cons to it, right? I think everybody wants to ensure that everyone is safe and right, and that we're not going to get like taken over by robots, or that their data isn't going to be used super inappropriately. But all in all, man, I totally agree. I'm very agnostic. I want to use which tools are the best. And I would hate to see the division. We already have a ton of division in the country. I would hate to see AI become another. I get that there's going to be people who think we shouldn't use much AI and some that think we should use it like crazy. But I don't want to see the division of, oh, you use ChatGPT, so you must be a Trump supporter. Oh, you use Claude, so you must be whoever is running for the Democrat side supporter. It's like, no, I just needed ChatGPT to grammar check this, and I just needed Claude to help me build out this document.
Yeah. And ultimately, AI is, like you said, it's already in places people don't understand, and it's been there. It's There's a book I read a few years ago. It's probably 3 or 4 years ago, and they were talking about how AI is actually used in the courtroom, and that was years ago. Like, what do you think is going to happen in the future? It's inescapable at this point. I don't think humanity's turning back from it. So people do need to figure out what that means for them. So, how do you move forward in a modern world with AI, and how do we ensure that it's still safe? And yeah, but yeah, again, to the main point though, ChatGPT versus Claude. I think, to be quite honest with you, you know, they're releasing new features every single month almost for both, and jury's out for me on what's gonna win. I think they're both in it for the long run, though. There's so much money behind both of these companies that it would be irresponsible for anyone who needs tools for their business to just stick with one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. In my personal opinion, if I had to summarize it like in as short of a way as possible, I would say Claude is best for enterprise level and high level serious productivity task. And ChatGPT is what the mass majority of people use. And I think that's good enough for them because it's great with your simple everyday day-to-day task, especially for things just like talking to it, right? Like just asking a question verbally, and the speech and voice modes, I think are great with ChatGPT too. So, all in all,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Darren.
no, 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 I'm done. What?
So yeah, all in all, like you said, it's there's features too, and regarding the voice stuff, that people aren't even aware of that ChatGPT does, right? For example, they have a full translator that can do up to 70 languages right now. So say you're a person who wanted to build like an AR app for Meta glasses that can literally like give you English while someone's speaking Cambodian to you right on your face. Like you could build that app right now with ChatGPT. So that tool already exists. So like there's so many things, and later on in other episodes when we start to create tools and show people how to use tools, we can talk more about the different ways we can use ChatGPT and Claude.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I would say one thing to kind of wrap up our episode here is you hit on a really good point, is that AI's here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to become more a part of everyone's day-to-day life, whether they like it or not. I mean, I've said this to many other people that are against AI. At once upon a time, people thought they wanted faster horses, and Henry Ford's like, no, you're going to drive cars, right? And now everybody's driving cars. So it's going to be the same way with AI. And that's ultimately what we are trying to help people with. There's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of BS out there. There's also a lot of fear mongering and scare tactics out there. And then there's a lot of over promising. I can't tell you how many times I'm on LinkedIn and I see RIP salespeople. Like none of that's completely accurate, right? So we're here to bring some stability and practicality to this crazy wild, wild west of the AI revolution that we're currently